Hi again, everyone. This video is sponsored by a contribution from Rita, and here's her story. Ollie, thank you for the tireless work you do in informing the greater public about narcissistic abuse. I have been listening to you for several years, and putting a label to the toxic behavior has been incredibly helpful for me. I have had several narcissists in my life. All have been wrecking balls of one sort or another. Today I want to focus on narcissistic personality disorder at work. I worked for 11 years as a project director for a nonprofit that serves individuals with disabilities. I love my job, loved the coworkers, and was getting recognition in the community for our work. Our agency served with people with intellectual disabilities who were living in the inner city and were in and out of crisis. We also advocated and worked with legislators to increase funding for services. In my 11th year, the board of directors decided that the organization was not making the kind of impact that they wanted and put the agency through a strategic planning process. The process was directionless, unorganized, and in the end resulted in the executive director being forced out of his position. In an effort to change the culture of the organization, an intern director was brought in as a consultant. Let's call her Connie. Once the former ED was gone, Connie appeared one day out of the blue and was introduced as our interim director. Staff was feeling uneasy, but Connie came in, interviewed each of us, and immediately stated she was hired to clean house and that there would be immediate changes. Within the first few weeks, 2 senior staff that had been employed there for 25 plus years were asked to gather their personal items and were escorted to the door. Connie was upbeat, charming, and worked extremely hard. She woke up at 5:30 a.m. to feed her 12 horses and then drove to work in the city to fix a nonprofit organization. She was nice and charming at first, even giving me 2 $5,000 raises in 6 months. Up until now, you must be thinking Connie was your typical corporate henchman, but wait, there's more. She was a temporary consultant. I had confided in her that I was interested in the position of executive director. She told me I was not a rock star and not to bother applying. She then proceeded to cut down the reputation of everyone that had applied for the position. Since she loved the organization so much, she decided to apply for the position of executive director herself, which is what I thought. Once she obliterated the competition and was hired, the mask of charm slowly slipped off. The first clue of toxic behavior I observed was that she spoke badly about her former and present bosses and gossiped about nearly everyone. She worked for a high-profile celebrity couple and frequently gossiped about their plastic surgery, infidelity, etc. To her, other executive directors and consultants were useless, not worth their money, and she found great pleasure in gossiping about her own staff to the board and to others in the office. She was a queen of the smear campaign, and apparently no one knew what they were doing except Connie. She brought me into her office on 2 separate occasions for the sole purpose of telling me that one of our board members' son, who had cerebral palsy, was masturbating when he was working with an agency representative, and that our major donor's mother, who had 2 children with fetal alcohol syndrome, was an abusive alcoholic. These are two both very prominent people in our city, but Connie had a way of getting and using personal information on people, then spreading it around to discredit them. And this is all her just eliminating the competition, much like a narcissistic matriarch mother will do in a household. It's the same thing in a business environment. It's the same thing. And, nonprofits are really nothing more than political organizations to begin with, and they're cutthroat. And they're completely cutthroat. And the problem with any type of organization, whether it be political or private corporation, it is mired with these type of narcissists who are there to ride on other people's work and then badmouth all the competition, and it's all an effort to protect themselves. That's all it is. She even called me one Friday evening at home to ask me if I had an affair with the former executive director of our agency. This was untrue, yet she claimed she had proof that it happened. This was meant to scare me and get a reaction. This is how politics is. I mean, this is politics. I had a 15-year reputation in the field, and all of a sudden, this new person no one knew had the ear of many leaders in our community. She spread that rumor about me, but again, she spread rumors about everyone that posed a threat to her. The second clue of toxicity was extreme exaggeration, aka lying. If a staff member was going to the doctor for a checkup, she would say they had a serious illness. A junior staff member had just broken up with her boyfriend and was upset, so Connie spread around the office that she was suicidal. She once told me several times that a colleague had said that my work was not valuable to their project and not very good. I called the colleague to verify the facts, and she did not know what I was talking about. She never said that. Connie gathered all the female staff to have a cleavage conversation to instruct us how to dress and claim that there had been complaints from the men in the organization. She also enjoyed manufacturing drama and chaos. I had been a part of high-level meetings with her and executive leadership of other companies, and she would cry for sympathy in the middle of a meeting to show her concern for people with disabilities. After the crying, she would apologize and say she was sorry and frequently take advantage of the good nature of others. Verbal outbursts, screaming, and finger-pointing became part of the environment of fear we all had to live with on a daily basis. Staff began to band together and create alliances in order to survive, but you were not sure who was safe and who was one of the flying monkeys. The flying monkeys are the dumbest, laziest people in the office because they pose no threat. That's how you know. Because everybody's backstabbing there. So to find a flying monkey, just look for the most incompetent people, the laziest people, the people that cause the most problems. Those are the flying monkeys because they're trying to protect their jobs just as much as Connie's trying to protect hers. There were betrayals of people who had known each other for many years. Connie knew how to come between people and knew exactly what to say to get people to turn on each other. It was like the Hunger Games. One of the staff members, who was a clinical social worker, wrote up a case study of what was happening as a way to document the erratic behavior to the director. There were staff members taking anti-anxiety medication just to be able to get through the day. And I would almost guarantee you without even reading this, that doesn't matter what evidence you gather against these people, human resources never wants to deal with it, especially when it's a woman, because that puts you in another type of protected class, and they don't want to deal with the lawsuit, and that's why they allow it. There was starting to be a predictable pattern: chaos, lies, and exaggeration, devaluation, daily instability. No one felt safe there. I was certain the board would figure this out and determine the way to out. Nope. People started quitting one by one and writing letters to the board. Five staff wrote letters outlining the unstable behavior and asking the board to intervene. The first staff member to leave was also a minister, wrote a 5-page letter and was ignored. Since she laid the foundation of deceit and discredited many staff members to the board, Connie would make up an excuse each time a complaint letter was submitted. She claimed it was a disgruntled employee and got out of the situation. The board is made up of prominent business people in the community, and they fell for it. No, they didn't. They know who and what she is. They don't care. They don't care because at the end of the day, look, this might be very hard for you to swallow, but most nonprofits, especially ones that work with people with disabilities or veterans, are scams. Are scams, and they're just out for the government money. That's it. So as long as they're making changes, so if something blows up in Congress or the Senate or some kind of scandal or something, all they do is they fire the director, bring in a new director, and say, we're in the process. In the meantime, they don't want anything to change. They want to keep the incompetence. Why? And the strife and the unhappiness, and they would rather people turn over because that makes it easier for them to scam the government money they're getting. Now, I don't know specifically with I don't know which organization you're talking about, but they don't allow this type of shit unless there's some fuckery going on at the top. Don't think that the board of directors didn't know and doesn't know exactly what's going on. It's by design. Because they can control an idiot like them because they got shit on her. Believe me. Believe me. She will never, and God forbid they do fire, you can absolutely positively expect some kind of sexual harassment lawsuit, some kind of gender bias lawsuit that's going to be just bring more bad publicity and more money. It's like it's cheaper to keep her, and they feel that they can keep her in check. See, you're under the impression that these board of directors are on the up and up, and they rarely are. She even told staff members not to even bother writing a letter because the board would not listen to them. By now the board was her accomplices. And the executive committee all laughed at the meeting when Connie said she had a hit list of staff she was going to fire. They weren't hers, she was his. She was theirs. You have it backwards. So you got to understand, people like this don't survive without the upper management, upper directors, upper board absolutely positively knowing about it. They just won't do anything about it, which is one of the main reasons I left Macy's, because the last store manager I had to deal with was this woman. Gossip, hanging out, wasting time. All she would do was sit there and talk about this one, talk about that one, talk about me and my divorce. I couldn't take it, and they knew about it. The executive committee all knew about it, and they said, yeah, well, you just kind of have to deal with it. Because they don't really want it to change. They don't want it to change. She claimed responsibility and openly bragged about firing the former executive director from his new position in another agency, and claimed to have secret breakfasts with one of his new colleagues to get him terminated. I knew my time was up when I started to call her on her unfiltered comments in staff meetings. At this time, I did not know what MPD was or how to protect myself. But by now, 6 months later, I had figured it out. The pattern was becoming clear and predictable. It was so obvious to staff something was off, but the board was still clueless. They weren't clueless. They weren't clueless. They knew. I'm telling you, the board knew. This is by design. Because if you're turning people over, okay, whatever issues they were in, okay, as long as they're firing people, saying like, listen, this has been bad, we're firing this one, we fired this one, we're working on it. And then people are like, oh, and then the government and the senators and the congressmen or wherever the funds are coming from. So, okay, here's another big check for you guys to put into some fucking slush fund and not give to the people who actually need it and buy your yachts and your fucking bullshit and your second, third homes with it. That's what's going on here. The pattern was becoming clear and predictable. It was so obvious to staff that something was off, but the board was still clueless. Unless you were there day to day to experience the dysfunction, it would be hard to see from the outside. I called our board chairperson and tried my hardest to give her details and tell her that Connie had just told our entire staff she was disbanding my department, and asked her if this was true. She muttered something at this point, but every day I came to work, I felt like it was my last. I could not believe, again, that this new person could come in like a wrecking ball and try to destroy careers and lives that no one would intervene. Because you were all being used. You were all being used by this nonprofit organization. You are nothing more to them than idealistic do-gooders that they will drop at a dime. They are using you all by firing you, eliminating departments, in order for them to say, hey, we're fixing this. This last executive director was so bad and put so many fucking idiots in here. Okay, but we can't do this. We can't continue to do our good work that was intended to do without your taxpayer-funded money. You are all pawns. You are all pawns. They know exactly what this woman is doing. They know exactly, that's why she is there. I lived partly in denial, but did not want to give up my 11 years at what used to be a great organization. I had clues that the firing was coming, but I was still in shock. It took me a while to recover from the trauma, but I have and am stronger and wiser for the experience. It has been just over 2 years, and 40 plus people have quit the organization. Many were newly hired and just stayed a few months. She has kept the departures from the board of directors. Once she turned the organization into a group of flying monkeys, and I mean yes men, she went after the board and tried to turn them against each other. They are finally starting to ask questions from former staff, but Connie continues to still be employed as executive director. So their attack dog finally turned on them. Their attack dog finally turned on them. Now they want to call the old handlers in and say, save me. Mm-mm. You made this mess. You made this monster. You let it destroy you. Don't ask me questions now, unless you want to talk to me, you can reinstate me, okay, with back pay of every friggin' cent you goddamn owe me, because this has all been a scam. See, now that she's going to start making trouble on them, now they want to do something about it, which was the same way at Macy's with the people who are like this. Once they started making trouble in upper management, then you get, oh, what do you have on this? You come to me now. You didn't want to listen to me for the last 2.5 years. We've been telling you about this fucking problem. But until it's biting you on your ass personally, that's when you care. So you have to understand what you're dealing with here. This is a narcissistic attack dog that is now turning on its master. Many people were traumatized. Many people were traumatized by the experience, me being one of them. I found that when I started to explain what happened to the people on the outside, I sounded unbalanced, and that what had happened sounded unbelievable. I had to learn to move on and not let this destroy my career. It is not easy. You can't win at work with an immediate supervisor who you suspect has NPD. The best strategy is to fly under the radar, resign before you're fired, and leave or transfer out as quickly as you can. I disagree, Rita. Because this nonprofit now has fucked themselves. They realize now, and you don't even realize this, they realize they have a problem with Connie. To the point now they're reaching out to fired employees who were probably the ones telling them this woman's a problem, and they let them get fired anyway. You see, these executive directors are probably scared shitless because now they probably do want Connie gone, but if they fire her, do you understand? If they fire her for this exact stuff that you all were complaining about, and it ultimately got you fired out of retaliation, wow, are they open to some major lawsuit? Some major lawsuit. Tortious interference, wrongful termination, slander, emotional distress. You got to realize where you are here. You need to keep an eye on this very closely. Because if Connie ends up getting terminated, okay, and they probably would never say that publicly. They would probably say she decided to resign, but I would really dig in if it was a forced resignation or not as to why. Because then they're going to have to admit everything you were telling them was true. And then they're going to be susceptible for discovery of what was actually going on and what the problem here in the organization was, they're in a lot of trouble. You should be sitting back and laughing because they reap what they're sowing here. Your mistake is you thought this woman was an anomaly, like just nobody will listen, and she doesn't. That was my mistake at Macy's. I thought like at first she had everyone snowed, and then when I realized I had to get out was when the regional vice president of stores said to me, like, pull me in his office, and not as like a disciplinary thing, like trying to talk to me, like he's like, look, I know she's a problem, and you just got to walk away. We all know. And I'm like, why won't you do anything about it then? If you know all this I'm telling you is fact and true, why won't you do anything about it? She's a woman, her husband works for the company too. That's when you know this is a game. And you are trapped in narcissistic employment. So you think you're blaming it on the one person, the boss, or even the co-worker, but this is bread, especially on the boss level when you're getting into executive jobs and people in charge. When you got that bad boss that you think nobody knows they're a bad boss and what they're doing, bullshit. They just don't care. But watch this. Watch what happens with her, because they fired a lot of people on her say-so. After hearing all the complaints, about her bragging, they knew it all. Now they have a problem because the attack dog got rabid and is turning on them. And they don't realize. That's why they're probably reaching out to the former specific ones that probably wouldn't figure this out or don't have as bad as stories, trying to get something. They're trying to get information from enough people they feel won't do them damage and get her out as quietly as possible, so everybody doesn't find out. Because once everybody finds out of her getting fired and why, and like, this is the bitch that fired us after we told you this is what she's doing, they're fucked. They'll probably be out of business. And don't feel bad that it's a nonprofit, because this nonprofit sounds like nothing more than another slush fund just going through motions trying to collect government money. And I'm not saying that was your intention doing there. You went in there with the best of intentions, thinking you were helping people, but I guarantee you that nonprofit could have helped a lot more people. And I guarantee you a lot of people got rich off of government money coming in for it. So I hope that helps. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you for your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who's watching. Please leave any opinions or comments in the comment section below. And if you have any topic or audio or story you want read on the channel, or you just want to help contribute to the channel and see it grow, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again shortly. Bye.